and collaboration. So as I told you before, the word elicitation is just a fancy way of saying obtaining information or gathering information. The word elicitation is just equal to obtaining of information or gathering of information. Now, there are two components. One component is elicitation, where your focus is to obtain or gather information. And then there is a second aspect, which is collaboration. Because when you deal with your stakeholders, you interact with them, you have to collaborate with them. You cannot be aggressive, you cannot be fighting, or be rude and still expect them to give information. So it has to be a very collaborative activity. And how do you do that? What are the various techniques? We will discuss that as part of this module as well. So this whole knowledge area of elicitation and collaboration is basically divided into 5 phases. Phase 1, you prepare for your elicitation. You cannot directly jump into elicitation activities without any preparation. Not advisable. Unless it's some kind of an emergency, or you don't have a choice, but strongly not advisable to go in without preparation. Second is, once you prepare, you are ready, you conduct the actual elicitation activities where you gather the information or obtain the information. And once you have all that information, phase 3 is all about confirming the results. Just because you have received some information does not mean or does not guarantee that the information is all correct and all right. So what you will have to do is you have to go back to the source. Whoever or wherever you got that information from, you go back to the source, you verify, you confirm whether whatever you gathered in phase 2 was accurate and correct or not. And only when it is confirmed that yes, this is the final set of requirements, you publish them, you communicate them to all your stakeholders, and you publish them in form of documentation, maybe in a tool like Confluence or in a Word file or a SharePoint site. Some location you would publish that information as documentation. And while you are doing these 4 phases, you would be talking and meeting with a lot of other people, especially your stakeholders. You will parallelly throughout this whole journey ensure that you are managing stakeholder collaboration. So technically 4 phases, and the 5th phase is common throughout. You have to keep that up every time you meet and talk with stakeholders. So we won't spend time on the core concept model. It's just breaking down of this particular topic into the core concept model: change, need, solution, stakeholder value, and context. Now look at this input output diagram. At this stage, you have many things already in place. You have the needs, you have all the business analysis information, you have the stakeholder engagement approach, and you have your business analysis performance assessment metric. Now you start preparing for elicitation, conduct elicitation, confirm results. So the deliverables are, so for preparation of elicitation, what is your output? You end up with something called an elicitation activity plan. It's more like a timetable, a schedule of when you will be meeting with your stakeholders, for which meetings, and what information you will be getting in those meetings. It's a very detailed schedule. Most companies or most teams that use agile and are very structured, what they usually do is right at the onset, they come up with this elicitation activity plan, but instead of publishing it somewhere, they simply convert it into meeting requests, recursive meeting requests. So for example, in my current team, we have one call with business, um, one 30-minute call every Thursday, where we just give updates. It's an update call. We don't discuss any specific issues. We just inform how the teams are performing on that call. 30 minutes. Just that very day, later in the night, we have a 1 hour call, which is solely focused on priorities, prioritization. We don't discuss anything else there. We will simply call the business members, all the stakeholders, and we will come up with a list of requirements that have already been verified, and we will ask them to do. Then on Fridays, we have another call, 30 minutes, where we just plan for the next iteration, what we will do in the next iteration. And we don't involve the business stakeholders. No, well, we involve everyone. Everyone is involved, all stakeholders. But here it is all about planning. What is the work that is going to happen in the next sprint, next 2 weeks, next 3 weeks? That's it. And right after that, we have a 30-minute call, which usually goes and becomes a 1 hour call, because we involve the development team in this. And it's a just like business stakeholders, we discuss priorities, what's important, what's not important. In this call, we just discuss that, but for technical requirements. And we don't involve the business stakeholders in this call. It's just with the technical team, the design team, the implementation team. They tell us what they plan to do or what the statuses are with various activities. And on Monday, we just do one call, which is the foundation call or grooming sessions, where we gather new requirements. We sit with the business owners, we show our user stories, we show our documentation, we verify requirements, we get new requirements if necessary, so on. And now, what I just mentioned is a set of calls, and these calls happen every week, and they are recursively set forever. Like, I mean, as long as I'm part of this team, that calls at those slots for those particular days of the week would always be fixed for those particular calls. It's nothing but an elicitation activity plan in action. Instead of publishing a schedule somewhere anywhere in the or sending out an email for it, you are actually converting that into actual meeting requests and following. Rest elicitation results, I mean, once you conduct elicitation, you will get a lot of requirements, you will get a lot of results which they are unconfirmed. Once you confirm them, they become confirmed. Once you communicate them, all this business analysis information that is generated, you communicate to everybody, it becomes communicated. And you are basically throughout this whole process doing stakeholder engagement. So let's talk about preparing for elicitation in a slightly bit more detailed way. So, how do you prepare for elicitation? Now, remember, elicitation is not about. Okay. So, elicitation is not just about talking to other human beings. Elicitation can involve doing studies, reading material, doing experiments, observing someone. It need not always be through collaboration. So usually information or requirements are gathered in three different ways. One is through active engagement or collaboration, where you actually talk to people, you ask them questions, and you get information out of them. That's the collaboration part, collaborative way of getting information. There is another part which is through observation. You don't ask any questions. You just sit and observe what people are doing. And based on that, you gain information, you document that information, you confirm that information. This process or this way of getting information only works in process oriented domains. You can't use it for knowledge oriented domains because you can't observe. Then you can do research and experimentation. Through that also you can gain a lot of new information. In fact, a lot of development teams, especially in the software industry, are constantly doing research and development. In fact, there are companies, almost all companies these days usually have an R&D wing, These guys in the R&D teams, they don't actually do anything relevant for production. They're not building software for people who are using the company's products. No, they are just doing research on what next. So I used to be a part in a different company of a small team. The whole point of that team was to do innovation. You do proof of concepts. In software you call it proof of concept. So what happens is you build something, you come up with a small demonstrator, meaning it's not the full product or anything. It just shows that yes, technically it's feasible to do whatever you're trying to do, and you demonstrate it. You do a demo, show that look, this is how it will work. If we do develop it full into a full-fledged project, it will give so and so benefits. So it's a mix of experimentation, research, lot of study, going through existing documents, research papers, all of that you have to go through. And you gain new information, and you use that information to build products or services. So again, all of that requires extreme levels of preparation. So don't think that if you become a BA, like in schools and colleges we used to get homeworks, you will not escape from homeworks if you become a BA. Because in business analysis, you still have to do a lot of homework. The only difference between this homework versus your college or school homework was your teachers would assign you the homework and they would come and evaluate your homework. Here, nobody is going to assign any homework to you. And if you don't do your homework, you will be the one who will not be able to answer questions or be productive enough as a BA. So, a lot of so at this stage, you already have the needs, the stakeholder engagement approach, you prepare for your elicitation, you end up with your elicitation. So how do you do preparation? Like what exactly do you do as part of? First is figure out, if you don't know your business, what questions will you ask? How will you ask the right questions? So do your research, do your homework about the business domain. What is that domain about? Where does it operate? How does it operate? Where does revenue come? Do a full thorough research of whichever domain for which you are building your products. Make sure that you do a thorough research of it. Figure out the corporate culture and environment. Without it, you cannot collaborate or have conversations or discussions or build relationships unless you know what is the corporate culture and environment of your particular organization or project team. Stakeholder locations. My team members sit in the US. I work in India. I cannot say I'll work only 9 to 6 every day. I can work 9 to 6, but I'll never get to meet with any of those guys who are based in the US because they log in at around 6 p.m. in India time. So, have a clear understanding and understand that we are the ones who will have to compromise as BAs. It's not even a compromise, let's call it part of job. So take into account stakeholder locations, ensure that their preferences are always given priority. Then group dynamics, very important. Again, politics, it's all about politics. Who are involved in your project and what are their group dynamics. It's not just about you having a good relationship with all other stakeholders. They also have to have a good relationship amongst themselves. If they are fighting with each other, if they have ego issues with each other, not with you everybody is cool, but amongst themselves they are constantly fighting, it will have a major impact on your elicitation activities. Every time you bring these guys into a room, they start fighting. That's a problem for you. So you have to figure out. So if you have such situations where you know these two people don't gel well, and if they come together, it's always fire. So you conduct elicitation separately for these guys. You conduct an interview with Mr. X, conduct an interview with Mrs. X separate. That's one way to do it. I mean, there are different ways to handle situations depending on the situation itself. But bottom line, your elicitation strategy will basically be dependent on these things. Your own skills. How good are you as a BA to plan everything out and ensure that these things are enforced and taken care of? That becomes absolute. I'll tell you very frankly, there was one time where it was, I think, 7 8 years back. I was already a BA 3 4 years in, I guess, 3 years 4 years, just 3 years completed, or 4 years. I was over enthusiastic. I had recently done my CBAP. I knew all these concepts. I wanted to use these concepts in practice. So what I wanted to do was, at that point, the projects I was involved with uh, did not have these recursive sessions. We would set up sessions as and when needed. And the problem with that was, when we needed a session, the stakeholders were not available because they would have other engagements, other meetings. So there was a lot of running around. So the idea was well intentioned. The idea was exactly what CBAP tells us. But because I lacked that experience, I could not manage it. So what happened was, I sent out certain meeting requests with certain group of stakeholders. We realized that we need another set of stakeholders. Again, certain things were coincidences, mistakes happened, and certain things were coincidences that led to bigger mistakes. But bottom line, we had to cancel all the meeting requests that we sent because things did not, and people got confused. There was like feedback, like, why are you spamming our inboxes with meeting requests again and again? We get the point, and this that. So things went for a toss. Then my project manager, who was also my mentor at the time, she jumped in. She said, let me handle this, because the idea had to be implemented. The idea was a great idea and had to be done. It's just that my experience at that time, my skill set at that time, didn't get the job done. And my manager jumped in. She made sure that these things are set up, and she held a call. And next week onwards, everything was set. Bottom line, business analyst skills, absolutely. Other elicitation activities planned to complement this one. Let's say you are talking to a particular group of stakeholders, you are getting some requirements, and there is another team, same company, same product, let's say, but it's a different team, has its own BA. There is some information that is coming from there. You might have to have some coordinated approach. Maybe there are two teams but of the same product. Happens in my current organization. We are four teams. We are all building the same product. Different parts of the product are divided into these four teams. I am the BA for one of the core products. How many more? Well, officially there is only one more BA, but technically two more BAs are there who handle two other components. So we need to be on the same page when it comes to requirements. So what we do is, we meet up regularly. All the BAs have their own meetups. If we anticipate that, okay, there is going to be some kind of a convergence, what we do is we set up brainstorming sessions, or we will have our own meetings. Other elicitation activities are planned to support our main elicitation. That also is something you constantly keep doing as a business analyst. You need to have a clear idea of overall strategy. Here it says or solution approach. I would say and solution approach. You should have a clear picture of what your overall strategy is, and you should be very clear with your solution. Yes, you don't have the solution maybe, but you will have the technical architect who will come up with an idea of the solution, and you should be on the same page as that of the solutions architect. Because if questions come up, you will be the one who will be the one approach first, and you need to know what the solution is before anybody else, because you will be the first point of contact for most stakeholders. And the scope. So if you know the solution approach, you would also know the scope of what your future solution is. And any other information that is relevant, please make sure that you use that for your elicitations. My request to you is, if you join first, let's make it first 6 months. I mean, the sooner the better. I mean, if you can do it in 3 months, awesome. Don't take it more than 3 months. But I mean, if you are new to the domain, let's say 6 months. Focus on three things: understanding the people, understanding the current systems or whatever you are building, understanding the dynamics, work culture, the politics of your organization. If you understand these three things, your next few years in that organization will be smooth sailing. So make sure that you understand what exists in the current system, how it works, what are the features, what not. Spend as much time as you can. Spend overtime every day if you have to, just to understand the current system, because you will not have much time to adjust after 3 months. After that, expectations start to rise. So in the first 3 months, understand the systems, documentation, read through it, requirements, read through it, processes, understand that, people, understand them, dynamics, politics, all of that. Get a grip, and then after 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, you'll start sliding into the project in a way where it seems comfortable and you will not have any challenges. I mean, challenges will always be there, but at least it will be a little bit smooth sailing compared to if you haven't done the techniques. So first thing is the mindset, understanding all of those things you will do. Then you have to pick and choose the right technique suited for your specific situation and execute technique section. But you cannot use the raw, I mean, there are so many techniques, right? 48 or 50 of them. You need to know which technique is suitable for which circumstance. If you're not clear about that, you might pick a technique which is not suitable for that particular scenario, and your elicitation might end up as a failure. So you have to be very clear the techniques that you're going to use, whether they are suitable for your particular situation or not. And we will cover what those situations are and how you choose these techniques when we cover the techniques. Logistics. Now, this is one of my favorite. People tend to ignore the logistics. Everybody is so focused on requirements, systems, software, diagrams, charts, this, that people tend to forget water bottles are necessary. If you are in a conference room doing a regular beverages, tea, coffee, maybe cold drinks, necessary, keeps you fresh. If you don't have the budget, then just stick to tea. But if you have the budget, provide cold drink, Coke, Pepsi, soft drinks, caffeine basically, so that people are alert. Chart papers, sheets, post-its, notepads, anything that is needed for your elicitation activity. You have to have that in place before you go into elicitation. You cannot keep running around trying to find things once your activity starts. So, what are your goals of your activity? Put that in a large chart or a large board on, so that everybody can see, and it's there to remind everybody that this is our goal, set of goals. All the participants and roles. Of course, if you are in an agile team, people would know who you are because you would be constantly interacting and working with them, especially for long projects. But let's say you're not in a long project or you just joined. Make sure that there is a document which lists out all the participants of whatever you are trying to do right now and their respective roles. So if I'm conducting a meeting with three of my business stakeholders, one from sales team, one from accounting team, one from delivery team, and I'm trying to get requirements for an automated system that will help all three of them, I have to create a page somewhere which will list out all the members' names and their roles and their contributions, whatever requirements they will give. I'll have basically, so I'll associate them with those scheduled resources, people, rooms, tools. We already spoke about locations. We spoke about communication channel. First thought, right? So communication channels are extremely important. Whether it's an application you are using, whether you are writing emails, doesn't matter. They have to they have to be taken care of in a way where there are no such technical issues. Techniques, as I said, we'll cover later. So let's skip that for now. Languages. Now remember, communication. Good communication does not mean good language proficiency. Let me be clear about that statement. However, said that language proficiency, if you have good vocabulary, if you can articulate complex concepts in a simplistic manner, are important. Articulation is extremely important for a business analyst, but articulation itself or language proficiency itself does not equal to communication. I have seen and met and worked with people who are not very proficient in a particular language, but when they communicate, they have that aura, they have that charisma that people listen, irrespective of their broken language or language skills. Language is just a medium, but confidence, body language, the way you look into a person's eyes when you are talking, all of these are also important aspects of competencies. Bottom line, language is also important. I will not lie to you. Although that's theory, language is not communication. But knowing, being proficient in a particular language in which you are communicating with your stakeholders is extremely important as well. I mean, let me give you a simple example. I used to work for a German company. Most of our stakeholders were international minded people, like they knew multiple languages: English, French, German, like that. So we never faced a problem. But we were in Germany. We were meeting with some other company people there. That was a book fair that was held in Europe. I mean, it's an annual book fair that is held in Heidelberg, where all the top publishers of the world come together and put up stalls and everything. So while we were there, we were just we went to attend that book fair because it was happening in the same time when we were there. So we attended it and we got to meet with a lot of other companies, other competitors of our company, other publishers, basically small publishers, medium sized publishers, different ones. What we realized was, especially the German ones, the Dutch ones always knew English. I mean, for Dutch, English is like a second language. They're pretty fluent in it, and they speak Dutch, but they are very fluent in English. German, I mean, communication itself, for a lot of times we needed translators because we were in Germany, so we had translators with us who would translate things for us. But we saw that there were development teams, there were operations guys, managers who did not know. And imagine I was working for them. What would have been the situation? I don't know anything about German. So language is absolutely essential in a way, but it's not equal to communication. Communication is different. Secure supporting material, very essential. Now, what is supporting material? It can be people. You need a specific skill set in a developer to make your requirement possible. It's you have to arrange that developer, or you have to upskill your existing developers. IT teams, support teams. Let's say your license is suddenly expired for some reason. You will contact your sales or acquisitions or licensing teams, which will buy the licenses for you. Or let's say the application that you are using has completely crashed. You need the DevOps and support teams to look into the crash, investigate why it got crashed. All those people are needed at various levels and stages. So you have to get all of them arranged before you will start your elicitation. What if in the middle of a workshop your projector stops working or your TV screen just goes off? You need the IT support guy to run in and fix it. Now, if you haven't prepared for him, you will go and ask for an IT guy, they'll say we're all busy with other things. and your meeting is now held up until though that issue is resolved. Systems we covered, historical. If you are building something new, you would probably have some historical data, some historical context on what you are doing today or what you plan to do tomorrow. So that historical data you have to have with you at all times, because in the middle of the elicitation, if let's say a stakeholder says, do we know how much the quality was for this particular activity for the last 5 years? It's a data set. You need to have that data available at least at your fingertips to just pull it out and say, okay, in the last 5 years the quality standards have always been above 90-95%. So we have to ensure that much for this. I'm just giving some random example. It's not even a real case, but just any materials, charts, all of that things have to be taken into account as well. Documents, any past documents, user guides, existing documentation, all of that would be something you have to secure beforehand. You don't want to be in the middle of your elicitation activity for some. And finally, the last but not the least, you have to prepare your stakeholders. Now you have a plan. You have created an elicitation activity plan. But if you do not prepare your stakeholders for what is to come, how will you get this done? So you have to set up some advanced meetings, give them context, explain to them what techniques you are going to use, what is the core agenda going to be, so that they can, they don't come prepared. You plan to have a broad discussion and they are like, we didn't get this information, you should have told us before. We'll have to go back and check our records on this particular data. So give them advance time, tell them what your overall objectives from that activity are, what you hope to gain out of those sessions, what techniques you will use, and what duration and what time and all of that. And once your stakeholders are fully prepared, only then send out the meeting request for your final activity, whichever date you finalize. You will always be driven or guided by business analysis approach, objectives, any existing business analysis information, and of course potential value. You are doing this elicitation because you want to enhance the existing value. If everything is valuable and to the perfect, why would you even make any changes? You won't. Some techniques are listed here for preparation for elicitation. There will be again a long list of techniques on actual conducting of elicitation, but this list is just for preparing for elicitation. So you can have brainstorming sessions on how to conduct a workshop, what information is needed in a workshop, or so on and so forth. So all these techniques you can use to prepare for your elicitation. These are the three primary ones, but anyone you need to talk to, you talk to. And you end up with your elicitation activity plan, includes logistics, everything needed for your actual elicitation activities. So conducting elicitation, remember I talked about different ways on how you can conduct elicitation. So one is definitely the collaborative approach. So what is collaboration? You talk to people, you go, you set up meetings. Most of your business analysis work would revolve around collaborative approaches where you have to talk to people to get as much information as possible. Then there is research. Now research can be observation, research can be you reading research papers, research can be you reading some user guides, doing market study, market research, analyzing trends online, anything. You are not dependent on other human beings directly. You are reading material, you are studying documents, you are watching videos, etc., etc., etc. You are gaining information, but you are not actually directly interacting with other human beings. If you are doing research, you can. I won't say. I mean, there are forms of research where even human participation is there. Like for example, observation. But
you are not going to talk to people. You don't have to actively engage them in conversations. That's basically out. Otherwise, I mean, if I'm just sitting and observing a team of people working in a bank, um, I'm there and I'm engaged with them in a way, but I'm not actively asking questions, and they are not talking. And experimentation, as I mentioned before, it is all about preparing something, doing experiments. You don't know whether it will work or not. You build something, you try it out. If it works, awesome. You present it, you make a product out of it, and you earn money. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It becomes a loss. There are many applications like that. I mean, if you look at these guys, all the AI companies that just sprung up after Chat GPT, do you think they were like it just came overnight? No. These companies, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, all of them have been investing billions of dollars for the last decade. For the last 7, 8, 10 years, they have been putting a lot of money, efforts, teams in building these AI systems. And couple of years back, ChatGPT came out. Then one by one, they all started releasing things to the market. But the actual work probably had started probably a decade back, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years back. So, and it must have started as experiments. I mean, I don't know for a fact, unless tomorrow someone comes with a documentary on Netflix on how AI systems originated. Uh, I can't definitively say that they have done this based on experiments, but that's the only logical path, right? Because there is no precedent. There is no product like that in the market. There is no one to talk to about it. So the only way you can actually build a modern AI system is by experimentation. You build something, you run a piece of code, you see if it works. Okay, this is doing well. Now let's take it to the next level. And then when you reach a certain momentum where you are like, okay, now this can be a product on its own, that's when you say, let's release it to the market. So again, it's a big assumption, but I'm sure the assumption is not incorrect when I say that these big companies all, especially cutting edge technologies, they're all focused on experimental elicitation. So you start with the elicitation activity plan. You already have a detailed timeline or plan or schedule on when you will talk to these guys, how you will talk to these guys. That part is set. Now it's just getting that done. So you meet with them and you start asking the right questions, getting the information out. So first point to keep in mind, when you are in that room, when you are actually conducting the elicitation activity, you will be the one who will be guiding the activity. As a BA, you have set up the meeting, so you have to take lead and guide the activity throughout. You have to, you might not be the person who knows everything in that meeting, but you definitely are the person who will be driving. Let's say you are the facilitator, capture everything that happens in that meeting and document any elicitation meet. I mean, these days you can easily record a call, but just don't rely on call recordings. Make still adds that personal I know Gemini or Microsoft Copilot. They all these AI systems are now integrated. See, right now I'm talking. We have this subtitle getting generated, and it's AI based. If you look at it, it's grammatically correct. It's completely understanding. I mean, phonetically, I might make mistakes in pronouncing certain words, but it's not making that mistake. It's capturing it as accurately as possible. And wherever I am making grammatical mistakes, it's actually correct. So, and later on, this will automatically transform into detailed notes. All of those tools are there, and you will use all of those tools, but please provide a little bit of a personal touch. Make notes, use Notepad or Notepad plus plus or whatever, capture some notes, send out a minutes of meeting once the meeting. Yes, you had a discussion. Yes, it was recorded. Yes, AI systems nowadays capture meeting notes. All of that is still. Open your Outlook, open an email, list out all the participants, ask ChatGPT to give you the text of that MOM. That is fine. I'm. It's not about uh, how you come up with the text for that MOM. It's about the MOM has to be sent. Don't assume that it's recorded, everybody has the recording, so job is done. No. Please send out a minutes of meeting to all your members and immediately document anything that is like a requirement or anything in those common document spaces like Jira or Confluence. Or if you are using Microsoft, then it will be SharePoint sites. You might even have wiki sites. I mean, there will be a portal, there will be a place where you can document all this information. So send out minutes of meeting to every participant. Make sure that you immediately capture this information in whatever application tool that you have. And yeah, that's those are the two things you definitely have. Not much in terms of guidelines and tools. You have the same set: business analysis approach, existing BA information, stakeholder engagement approach, and supporting materials, anything that you might need to conduct your elicitation. The whole elicitation topic might seem so short because it revolves all around the techniques. So as you can see, almost a long list of techniques that you can use to elicit your requirements or information. Anything. It can be requirements, it can be designs, whatever you want to gain out of those people, you will use these techniques and you'll get it out. We will go through them in text technique session. So let me just skip to the next. So stakeholders, any stakeholders. I mean, of course, the main ones are explicitly mentioned, but let's just say when you are conducting elicitation, it can be any